Hi, I'm Othais, and this beautiful piece of hardware is the Swiss revolver of 1882, a Schmidt Warnant Avidy. But we'll get into the details in a moment. First, Lightbox. Weighing in at 1.7 pounds and with an overall length of just 9.3 inches, this is a much smaller pistol than its older brother. The cartridge was also reduced, now just 7.5mm, but still loading 6 shots into the cylinder. Now using an Avidy quick load and unload system. Ladies and gentlemen, this show consumes electricity, ammunition, time, and a fair number of Doritos. So, if you would like to support our efforts, do not rely on YouTube to cut us a check for pennies on the tens of thousands of people watching. Instead, you should support us directly. Those guys don't even like us. You can do that on Utreon or Patreon, or you could stop by our shop and pick up some prints, maybe some patches. But the point is, the power is yours. Before we get started, I do have to point out that this episode could largely be considered a part 2 of 2, with the part 1 represented by our previous lecture on the Swiss 1878 revolver, a double-action 10.4mm black powder cavalry wheel gun. The 1878 had been built on the action of one Jean Warnant, incredibly simple in construction and sporting an automatically rebounding hammer. The Warnant was modified over a series of trials against other designs, most notably the Krauser. This auto-ejecting design had been the subject of considerable attention, but was ultimately rejected at the proverbial 11th hour. However, the option to later refit the service revolver with the Krauser ejector was left in the final design. So ultimately, we have a Warnant lockwork with some considerations merged in from the Krauser ejector, just in case it might be added later. This hybridization, along with other minor changes, was largely the work of one Rudolph Schmidt. Born in Basel in January of 1832, Schmidt had attended a local secondary school before taking 2 years of college in Rouen. At the age of 16, he had apprenticed with an importer and completed as much by age 20. A few years following, he would marry the boss's daughter and thus expected to inherit the business. When it appeared this would never happen, he started his own silk ribbon factory in 1859. However, that enterprise failed, leaving Schmidt deep in debt. Now, this would be the story of a failed merchant if not for Schmidt's personal interest in firearms. He was an avid marksman and would serve as a member of the board of directors for his local shooting team. In this field, he began dabbling in gun design and even earned a prize for one of his early rifles. At 32 years of age, he became a Swiss weapons inspector, moving to Neuhausen. There, he largely worked on the then-new Model 1863 rifle. Excelling at his new job, Schmidt began researching and writing about firearms from around the world, and of course, their design and use. Selling these books also helped him slowly whittle down his debts. In 1869, he rose to chief inspector for the manufacture of repeating rifles, now overseeing the Swiss Vetterli. Around this same time, Schmidt began pushing for a sort of pedal scheme method of manufacture. He was hoping to overcome, well, the problem of maintaining a state arsenal in peacetime, especially when you're a neutral nation. That was still able to balloon production when war or outside threats brewed. His solution was to have a central state armory responsible for limited, complex parts, with the rest being provided on contract from the private sector as needed. Final assembly being the state's responsibility, along with inspection. Thanks to the Franco-Prussian War, Swiss officials quickly realized the value of Schmidt's plan. And as a result, a new arsenal was founded in 1871. By 1875, this would be named Eidgenössische Waffenfabrik of Bern, usually just called Waffenfabrik Bern. That's a lot easier. Schmidt too would move to Bern, where he was promoted to major and joined the general staff. While this was happening, Schmidt was also involved in the trials and adoption of Switzerland's first revolver, the 1872 Chamelot Delvin, which was known there as the Chamelot Delvin Schmidt thanks to his heavy influence on militarizing the design. Because of his revolver research, Schmidt was sent on a tour of European arms factories and returned with even more expertise. In 1873, he began work on his own rifle, but that's a matter we've covered previously. I'll just remind everyone the final results of his work wouldn't emerge until 1889. Today's episode is set just a bit earlier than that. In 1875, he apparently presented a modified Chamelot Delvin revolver action, this time fitted with a swiveling ejector system. It was, however, passed over. Also in 1875, Schmidt became the director of that new arsenal, Waffenfabrik Bern. It was in this position that he influenced the final evolution of the Model 1878 revolver, which he had already found somewhat lacking even as it was being adopted. Apparently, as early as 1876, Schmidt had realized the auto-ejector system wasn't a guaranteed winner, and had submitted a modified Chamelot Delvine fitted with a sort of Avidy loading system. I'm not sure how that would work, and I don't know of an existing example. If anybody knows of one, I'm really curious. That gun, however, it was unsuccessful and likely withdrawn from trials before given any real consideration. This was probably due to the introduction of the Warnant lockwork. But in 1877, Schmidt would try again. This time, he had blended the Warnant lockwork and Avidy systems. This drawing is from an 8-shot small bore modification, but we're not quite there yet. The Schmidt Avidy gun was passed over for something inherently compatible with the Krauser ejector because they still thought they might want that. However, with the model of 1878 finally reaching service, it was quickly apparent that there was room for improvement. In October of 1880, just a year after production began, now Lieutenant Colonel Schmidt would submit an 18-page document to the military department's Infantry Chief of Arms, Colonel Feiss, suggesting a new revolver for non-mounted officers. Obviously, a fair bit of this document was devoted to the problems with the newly adopted 1878. It was felt to be too large, too heavy, and awkward to use. The 1878 also suffered from being made compatible with a never adopted ejector system, meaning that the loading and unloading was still slow, and the lack of a gate meant that it was wide open to debris, the worst of both worlds. Along with his complaints, Schmidt provided a solution, the first iteration of which was the same 1877 Avidy safety revolver, now scaled for a 9mm cartridge. The revolver was felt to have merit, and another version in 10.4mm was assembled for comparison. Testing in 1881 showed that Schmidt's faster-moving 9mm cartridge paired with a shorter barrel was more than equal to the previous long-barreled 10.4mm in terms of accuracy and penetration. However, Schmidt made further changes, and by October of 1881 had presented another memorandum, this time covering 2 more revolvers, both chambering a new 7.5mm cartridge. Now, we've repeatedly seen nations adopt a handgun with the same bore diameter as their rifle. This would allow them to reuse existing rifling machinery and even recycle otherwise failed rifle barrels. But don't forget, we're still in 1881. The then standard rifle was the 10.4mm Vetterli, hence the 10.4mm revolver cartridge. This will be the first time in our show that we see the reverse order of adoption. A 7.5mm handgun followed years later by a 7.5mm rifle. Why? Well, it's most likely because of Eduard Rubin, who we've mentioned many times over in our show. During the 1870s, he had been appointed as the director of the Swiss Federal Laboratory in Thun, and risen to the rank of major. Focusing on ammunition, Rubin had been working on a ballistics problem. It was well known that a small-bore, high-speed projectile could deliver as much power as a slower-moving heavy bullet. Moreover, that change would extend the weapon's point-blank range. This being the ranges at which a bullet would pass through the vitals of whomever the weapon was sighted on. Thanks to the trajectory of bullets in flight, slower and heavier meant more room for errors in sighting. Now, the bulk of Rubin's research was directed at rifle cartridges. However, it's likely that he and Schmidt were already pushing for a 7.5mm option on the back end. So, why not carry over that same dimension, albeit ahead of schedule, to the revolver? It would certainly help make their later case for the rifle. In testing, the 7.5mm revolver cartridge allowed for a more compact handgun. It also proved capable of rapid follow-up shooting with less disturbance to the shooter, and still had, according to the Swiss, enough power and penetration to serve as a Marshall cartridge. The result would be this: the Swiss 7.5mm 1882 black powder cartridge, paper patched with a heeled hard lead bullet. Unlike the later rifle cartridge, this was still moving at a somewhat leisurely pace. Available ordnance records point to the 7.5mm cartridge emerging in trials in 1881. However, this drawing is from Schmidt's own book, published in 1878, one in which he is already discussing the possibility of a 7.5mm cartridge. Schmidt offered up several variations of his design in 7.5mm. Notably, one was equipped with a Krauser ejector, and another was a slightly larger version providing 7 shots. Both were rejected. Instead, his 6-shot version was preferred in trials and would be adopted in May of 1882 by a federal council decision specifically for unmounted officers. So let's get a look at this mostly model 1882 then. This might very well be the most beautiful military revolver I have ever seen, but whether or not it's actually useful, we'll leave till after we talk to Mae. Now, let me go ahead and right away compare this to its older brother, the 1878, which is a much larger handgun, 10.4, 7.5. Look at the grips, just as a comparison. Yeah, this seems sort of close, but don't forget, it has that whole extra piece at the bottom we're going to talk about in a minute. Look at that. Look at that. That is a big difference. All right, let me get this guy out of the way. And let's talk about features, because in a lot of ways it's similar to its older brother, but there are some differences. Number one, these wood grips are a later addition. The initials would have had hard rubber with the Swiss cross, just like the 1878. Number two, this is a single, boom, and double, pull, and then eventually boom, action revolver. That much is similar. If we flip her over, well, loading's a little different because we actually have a loading gate. We do, however, have the same old ejector rod. If we open up that loading gate, we haven't seen anything happen, but let me tell you, internally there is a change because I can do this. This has an Avidy loading system in which the gate disengages the hammer and allows us to just rotate the cylinder by pulling the trigger. That allows for rapid loading, put one in, put one in, put one in, or unloading, which means we can flip this rod over out of the stowaway position all the way over to the ejection position, all that bias being provided by this spring here, and then pull and push and pull and push, and we can get quite fast at that. Just like the older brother, by the way, disassembly means that we push this over center to the top. That puts the most force outward on this spring, releasing a little tooth that is sitting in the arbor. So now we can remove that arbor. And as we do, we'll see that it does have a flat spring that is used to put friction on the inside of the cylinder for prevention of counter rotation when releasing the trigger. Let's go ahead and take the cylinder out, which is very plain by comparison to the previous model. No fancy band, just a stop up front and then your actual stop here. So that would be your, when the trigger is relaxed, keeping it from rotating when out of battery. This is your in battery stop. All right, so let's set this aside. To further disassemble the gun, we take our 10 Rappen coin, insert it in the slot, and turn left many times until, with our gate free, we can swing it open. And we see inside, let's get this slightly newer grip out of the way. We can see inside that yes, there are some similarities with the old gun, but boy, is there a lot of new. So for starters, we still have the one mainspring powering both the hammer and this armature. The arm is powering the hand, biasing it forward and pushing the trigger back to reset it after firing and releasing. However, the double action system has changed greatly in that we have a hammer nose right here, which has its own spring that added a spring to the spring count. And then we have this little guy right here. So let's see how this works. If I go to single action, it's the same old kiss to kiss, mouth to mouth. We've got the extension off the hammer, the extension off the trigger. They're locked together like so. And then when they separate, this guy comes crashing down, boom, gun goes off. For double action, instead of being operated off the hand like before, it's now operated off of the extension of the trigger, pushing underneath this nose until it tips over center. So right there, she'll slip, poop, comes down. When we release, the nose is compressed, and then its spring will pop it back out. That's why it's necessary. The reason the nose was put into the system is so that the Avidy gate could work. So when we open up the Avidy gate, this lug right here rotates into the nose. See if you can see that here. Ooh. That compresses the nose, and therefore when we pull the trigger, the hammer is not engaged. Fairly basic Avidy system. We've seen this before on the Avidy itself, on the Gasser 1898. We've seen it on the Bodeo, the Italians. So if I rotate this back forward, the system should start working normally. Takedown is the same as before, and I'm actually going to use it, even though it's a bit of a recap from last time, because I want to show you the last little piece of sin that is in this gun. So let's get on in here. We'll pull our hand. And then underneath this hammer, let me get the trigger out of the way. Look at that. That is the spring for biasing the Avidy into one of its two positions. That is a second additional spring that has been added to the system. This gun has 2 more springs than the previous 1878. Obviously, we have to count this as a complete failure. There's no reason for the Swiss to have ever introduced it, because why would you ever add an extra spring, even if it means much more rapid operation, much safer operation, and the ability to be a more combat effective revolver in a lot of ways. At the end of the day, live or die, you have to go home understanding that you have an extra 2 springs in your gun, and that's just unacceptable by engineering standards, right, folks? Okay, I guess they made their point. And last of all, I'd like to show you this mysterious rectangular hole at the bottom of the gun. This guy is actually for an accessory that we'll discuss a little bit later in this episode, but it does go all the way through. Before that, however, let's get a better look at how this little guy works internally with an animation.
As we load up the 1882, let's take note of the Avidy-styled gate. Tipping it back turns a projection into the hammer nose, compressing it out of the path of the trigger extension. That means we can pull the trigger without tipping the hammer. Instead, we only rotate the cylinder. Each time we do, another chamber aligns with the port, allowing us to load up rapidly. The gate is biased into one of 2 positions by this spring in the right side of the frame, open or closed. Single action is the same as ever. Cock back the hammer manually, and its forward, lower extension will catch on the trigger's rearward extension. They click into place and stay until we gently pull the trigger. Boom! Unlike last time, the hand is now simply meant to rotate the cylinder. Like the 1878, a projection at the top of the trigger serves as the stop, rising into matching notches in the cylinder, aligning each chamber before firing. When at rest, cylinder rotation is prevented by this additional lug at the front of the trigger, along with 6 corresponding notches in the cylinder. Double action operation is handled by the hammer nose, which is sprung outwards so that the trigger extension will catch underneath and lift the nose. This tips the hammer until the extension slips past and the hammer drops. On releasing the trigger, the extension now compresses the nose into the hammer, which then springs back out as it passes. Once more, the Swiss are using a V-shaped mainspring, the upper half powering the hammer and the lower half powering an extension arm. This arm rests inside a notch on the hand, biasing it forward into the cylinder. This same pressure resets the trigger on release. Furthermore, thanks to an extension at the bottom of the hammer, the arm also places pressure on the hammer, automatically rebounding it when the trigger is released. Alright, that about covers it. The Avidy system can be used for more rapid ejection, but we already covered the rod last time. So, let's just go shoot it.
This little guy was punchier than I expected. The first deliveries of the model 1882 would begin in September of 1883. The revolvers were sold to officers like the 1878 at only 60% of the cost to the government. Unfortunately, I was unable to find that value. It might have been the same 45 Swiss franc though, I'm unsure. Bern also produced revolvers for pure commercial sale. These will be marked with the letter P before the serial number, which was in a separate series from the military serials. Also, weapons privated out of service would later be marked P and the date. Now, I know a lot of you are curious about this little loop we mentioned before. Well, it's actually for a shoulder stock, which is something Schmidt had considered all the way back in 1875 with his pivoting breech revolver, although that design used a two-prong attachment. By 1882, Schmidt had developed a far simpler latch, requiring only a square loop on the base of the revolver's grip. This allowed for combination holster and shoulder stock attachment, which was not adopted by the government actually. They were not going to cough up for the stock, and it was likely found to be less than necessary. However, they did leave in the requisite loop, which gave officers the option to purchase one privately, which is actually written into the 1882 instructions for the new revolver. I'm not gonna lie, that is an impressive feat of commercial enterprise, getting the government to include a provision explicitly for officers to buy your privately manufactured accessory for a service handgun. It might be a first. Now, over time, several changes were made to the 1882, the first of which started around serial number 1500, which is when the Avidy system was adjusted. My gun, being much later, has the improvement, so let's take a look at that. Now, because my gun here has already been updated, I'm going to have to borrow another to show the actual problem. Luckily, we have this, an original Avidy, although the 80s version. No, not those 80s. Now, this guy has the same system, right? We open up the gate and we pull the trigger and the hammer doesn't move. It also has an original problem that was inbuilt, which is that if the hammer is already cocked back and we open the gate, well, you hear that flex in the trigger? If this gets a little out of time, or especially if someone's fiddling with it, and it takes a little bit of work because this one's in good shape, but when they get worn, let me tell you, let's see if I can do it. There we go, right there. Now I can do this. Uh-oh. Now that won't set a round off, mind you, but if you allow the hammer to wiggle free past the Avidy, it does slam into the lug on the Avidy, which is not designed to take that kind of abuse, the actual slapping of the lug. And eventually it's going to crack or get damaged, and you may end up in a situation in which your safety for loading and unloading no longer works, and you've trained your soldiers to pull that trigger, so that could get bad in a hurry. The Swiss solved the problem with some internal geometry changes, such that if you have this guy cocked back and you try to open the gate, number one, it can't open all the way up. That should be a visual indicator. You won't be able to get a cartridge lined up very well. And if that fails, well, don't worry, because this trigger is rock steady. There's no wiggle room, and therefore there's no way, look at that, I can't wiggle the hammer either. They are both deadlocked. There's no getting past this guy. There's no slapping the lug. There's no risk of damage. You have to close the gate, you have to reset the system properly, and then open it up as you should have done. This improvement made for a much safer revolver in the long run. Our example today also features a change to the barrel profile, right where it meets the frame. This is the original shape, which was apparently shredding holsters. And here is the improved taper, introduced in 1886. Much nicer and less likely to generate leather fuzz. In 1887, the revolver was changed again, this time with just about invisible adjustments to better reinforce and fit the gun for the new model 1886 cartridge. This was, effectively, the same as the previous 1882, except now sporting a jacketed bullet and ditching the paper patch in favor of, apparently, liberal waxing. This appears to be about the same time as the roughly serial number 10,000 change to the top strap, which was somewhat thickened. Also in 1887, Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft, SIG for short, was contracted to produce various major components of the 1882 revolver. SIG would also produce whole revolvers, the broad majority being sold on the commercial market. These were marked Waffenfabrik Neuhausen on the left side of the frame. It's believed upwards of 3,000 could have been made. These we do know were priced at 43 Swiss francs each. In 1891, the one and only true variation of the 1882 revolver was introduced when the Federal Council decided to set up bicycle troops with their own unique configuration of bayonet, rifle, and revolver. The standard lanyard ring was removed and a fixed loop was attached through the existing shoulder stock slot. The exact reason for this particular modification has been unfortunately lost to time. Only 337 pieces were made between 1892 and 1897. Alright, we're not there yet, folks, because, once more, around serial number 17,500, the top strap was thickened, and even that wouldn't be enough. Repeated shooting of the 1882 had resulted in the same problem that we've found on numerous early revolvers which utilize milder steel or even iron frames. The area around the firing pin on that breech face was subject to severe erosion and eventual deformation, which resulted in poor revolving, the core feature of a revolver. So, beginning in July of 1893, a steel insert was fitted. The frame was actually given a dovetail cut so that the insert could be placed in and then screwed into place. Being removable, this could be changed out in case of excessive wear down the line. It was also possible to do this to older existing revolvers without too much fuss. From about serial number 20,000, we see the most obvious visual change to our revolver today. The original hard rubber grips had been proven to be too brittle. They were likely to chip or crack, and so were swapped for good old wood grips with simple grasping grooves. Older guns that came in for repair would also receive the new wood grips as time went on. While the 1882 was initially designed and issued to non-mounted officers, over the years its role expanded, first in 1892 when it replaced the previous model 1878 even for mounted officers. Now in theory, the 1882 should have been replaced in 1900 by the adoption of our previously covered Swiss Luger. However, the Luger was expensive, and the Swiss Army had a growing need for handguns. As we've seen time and time again in this show, the early 1900s were a period of expanding armies, which began to develop even more specialized non-infantry combat roles. Lots of troops could fight without needing an actual rifle or even a carbine, and so this revolver was kept in service and in production until 1929. Only being replaced by an even simpler wheel gun specifically made to be economical. Even so, the old 1882 was still being assembled and delivered until November of 1932. That's over 50 years of manufacture and even more years of service, as the 1882 would serve alongside the Model 29 well into the 1950s. Total Marshall production would be over 37,200 units, with private production totals currently unknown. Now, just in case you're curious, the auto-ejector concept still hadn't completely died away, because in 1927, a modification of the 1882 was trialed with a gas-actuated ejector system. This proved to be bad, and the matter was finally dropped for good. I don't know what the Swiss obsession was here. Auto-loading pistols were already widely available by this period. Alright, with the history all buttoned up, let's get Mae's opinion on just plain shooting this beautiful piece of steel. Alright, once more we've made room for Mae.
Hola.
And we have a lot more room because this is a smaller revolver.
It is! Look what they did to my boy!
That would be a bad thing.
Wait, in this situation it's a good thing though. Look what it did to him. It made it so pretty.
Okay. It is very beautiful. It is much more compact,
Yeah.
but I should probably be giving it to you.
Yeah, Mae. Give me the gun, Mae.
Why am I being called
Sorry
Mae?
for reviewing it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's my job.
Okay, what do you think about the gun?
It's my job. So literally, it does look like we have basically condensed our 78 into this, which is the 82. Beautiful, fantastic, loving it. And it looks kind of cool. Like we've lost that beautiful shine to it, but it's like got a matte look to it now. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And look at these grips. Oh man, they actually look really cool.
Yeah, the wood grips are, I personally think the wood grips are more handsome than the...
Oh yeah, they definitely are. And I remember thinking when I first was handed this gun, I was like, oh my God, this looks kind of rad.
Right.
Like it really does. Like I was very excited to have this because I was like, oh sweet. So we've gone from that kind of heavy, bulky 78 into this smaller condensed version. Yeah, essentially, like if you look at the two next to each other.
Scale-wise, the interesting thing is this is, we compare this to the Nagant 78.
Right.
I would compare that to the Nagant 95.
Yeah, that's pretty close to it.
Which it kind of does look a little like it too. It's not too bad.
I'm giving it away for another future episode, not right away, but there's a more comparable series of Nagant revolvers that we will talk about another time.
Fancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like we've still got the same ejector rod, which is great. We still have that. And then, wait, what is this? Avidy system for loading and fast unloading.
Yeah, that is a distinct improvement from last time. And we really reiterated that we did not like the loading.
I know. At least they've added that on, so hey, fantastic. We didn't get the auto ejector.
I missed the cool text string at the front of the cylinder. No, just the text string.
Oh, you missed the text string?
Yeah, it's completely useless in this gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you do? You just
I
have
don't
it on
care.
here for
I want
flirt.
it. It's cool looking.
Well, then it would literally just be, you were looking down at your mic, weren't you?
Yeah, I was making sure I wasn't bumping my mic.
Good job, I'm proud. I actually am. It would just be like what was the word I used last time to describe it? It'd be like an actual decoration.
Yeah, just
at that
decorative.
Point. Yeah, it'd just be decorative. Mm-hmm. So that'd be like your least favorite.
But it's so
It'd be
cool.
useless
No one
decoration.
Else, this is the only one that does that.
That's a useful decoration.
It's neat.
Although not that useful. It's okay.
And you can use it on your foot calluses.
Okay.
So, it's called a pet egg.
But yeah, just in terms of general looks and features, we basically have a condensed version of our 78 with an Avidy system. Rad.
Right. Should be golden.
Yeah.
All right. And it's more compact.
Yeah. Loving that.
For me, I feel a little crowded on that gun.
So, you know what? Actually, when I'm here with the double action, it does kind of feel a little bit crowded. I feel like they could have extended it a little bit further. Maybe like 2 millimeters?
No, I feel this is my home. I like this.
That does feel a little bit better, I will say that.
Really?
I feel like
Even for you got little hands.
I just feel like I have a better purchase on the trigger. I guess when I feel too closed in, I feel like I'm just kind of too scrunched up.
If you had to carry one on your belt all day?
What do you mean?
Like just had it hung on your belt and you never shot it and carried it around for hundreds of miles?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Wait, you'd still go with the big one?
It'd just be funnier.
Okay, but in terms of actual utility.
Oh, well, yeah, this one would be better.
Okay, this is why you should never hire Mae for your ordnance department.
Yeah.
You just want the big iron on your hip.
The big one. Yeah. The big one's better. It's bigger, it's better. That's how it works.
That's not what you said in the 1905 episode.
No, that's definitely not what I said in the 1905 episode.
So, what else is going on with this gun in terms of handling?
I guess the only other thing really is that it feels like it is kind of nice that I have a little bit of a longer grip thanks to this little
socket.
I guess that is a socket pretty much. I mean, it doesn't screw on. It's part of the actual metal right here. But sure, yeah, it gives me a little extra room for my pinky. But I mean, I don't personally need it, I think, that bad. You probably do.
I'd love to shoot this with the shoulder stock, but we were unable to get a hold of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a rare piece of kit. They're a valuable and rare piece of kit. I don't know. We're not that loaded.
I guess no.
We had to buy the ammo. That's where all the money goes.
It's true. It does go to ammo.
So,
but yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of features. There's really not much else until we get into actually shooting it.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about actually shooting it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, but really, so the sights, they're pretty much the same. We got still that raised bead with the U-notch in the rear.
They're technically smaller because it's a smaller gun, but they're still
pretty good.
Yeah, they're proud.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of the French 1892 revolver, which I believe copied this one.
Yeah.
In that regard.
I could see that.
Yep.
It's been a while, but I still could see that.
Okay.
No, they're actually pretty good. The single action, the actual hammer, it's
I saw that eye.
Stiff.
I saw that eye.
It's kind of stiff. It's
Something
stiffer.
Going on there?
It's a little bit stiffer than it was on
expression.
the 78, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's not the worst. Okay. And then the actual single action pull of the trigger, not too bad. I really didn't notice much of a difference.
It has a bit of a cliff.
Maybe, yeah.
But again, that 78 did the same thing. It's this sort of martial, you're pulling the trigger.
Yeah, I honestly didn't find that too bad. When we get to the double action, though, what did they do to my boy?
That's
the bad. Yeah, now we've gone the other direction because that is not the worst double action trigger I pulled because I still had the yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Philippine 1902. That's literally the worst. This is number 2 now. I didn't officially have a number 2 before this, but now I've got a number 2.
Yeah, I'm not
This is bad.
I'm not sure how heavy it is, but it is god awful.
Yeah, I did not care for that.
I was caught off guard, and it tricks you. You know why? Because it's a nice old revolver and it's in good condition. So what do we do when we're here? And we clear the revolver and we're checking operation, and we do that thing where you ride the hammer a little bit and pull the trigger, and you think, oh, that's quite smooth.
Right.
But you don't realize just that little bit of hammer riding.
Yeah.
Changes the entire dynamic.
Changes the world.
Because when you take that hammer off and you get it all the way out here and you start pulling, you're like,
what did they do to my boy?
It is Nagant 1895 gas seal cylinder bad. but not as chunky. It's not as chunky.
Well, it's not as chunky, no,
that
but
has
it's still
like
a
some
heavier
weird
pull.
torque in it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like a...
But it is as heavy, if not heavier, than the gas seal Nagants.
And then that's not even the worst part about it. Okay. The worst part about it is you'll get through the pull and you're like, oh, thank God, I'm almost done. Surely I have to hit a cliff. And then all of a sudden the hammer falls and you went, wait, what just happened? It's like you're pulling, and it just goes, Neh.
It stacks.
You're like, what?
It stacks weird, and you swear you're 80% of the way through the pull.
Right.
And I get it. You don't always want to know when it's going to break.
Right.
But I don't know how to explain how incredibly unsatisfying it is to be 80% of the way through a difficult trigger pull.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just goes off. And you're not
and
just
it's like
not only
soft all of a sudden at the end. It's like I'm suddenly like in Jello, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Then you have this range of like after pull.
Yeah. It's like the most unsatisfactory double action pull.
And to be honest with you,
from start to finish.
You're so hard in it that when it releases, I swear that you're just sort of like, because you're just, now you're still pulling and you've got plenty of room to keep messing it up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, granted, the bullet's already gone, but it's just so weird, especially even for any rapid follow-up that you're like,
And then that 75 cartridge coming out of this guy.
7.5?
Yeah, 7.5. What did I say, 7?
Yeah.
Anyway.
You said 75, I think?
Yeah, 75. 75. It's really intense.
75.
But the 7.5 cartridge.
Because they don't make a 76.
No. Good job. But no, that 7.5 cartridge coming out of this guy actually was pretty stout.
Yeah, by the numbers.
Yeah.
That is a small cartridge.
Uh-huh.
It's not moving. It's moving at like 1911 speeds, right? Like it's like 45 ACP slow.
Uh-huh.
And it's little.
Yeah.
So you're thinking,
yeah.
right? Like, I don't know. You're looking at you look at 32 ACP, you're like, I don't know if I want to bet my life on that or not.
Right.
And then we go there.
Out and you're like, oh God, I guess I will.
we pull the trigger and it's like, wham! And you're like, I don't want to get shot by that at all.
And then what you don't expect is these wonderful grips, they come back to bite you. At the end of the day, you look down at your hand and you've got red lines all the way down it from the blood that seeps from... No, just because it leaves such horrible marks, because this grip is horrible to hold with any kind of recoil.
I don't understand how, to be honest with you. I'm mystified because I grab the grips. They don't feel...
No, they don't feel weird at all.
No, they don't feel like they're going to be any problem.
Maybe like an old broom handle or something like that?
I felt like I got paddled right across the hand. Like I
just looked down and I was just like, oh my God.
I feel like a nun with a ruler just like bapped my... I mean, it was bad.
I hate you for that. It's going to be terrible to listen to later.
Oh, the clack?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm
You're
sorry.
a jerk.
I've ruined the peak volume.
That's okay. But no, you just don't anticipate that because you look at how beautiful they are and they felt so good when you were doing nothing with it. And then all of a sudden you shoot it and you hate this gun. You go from loving it from the looks to hating it when you're actually done.
I wonder if we can even see in the footage where your love affair with that gun just hit a wall.
Yeah, like I want to say I'm going to show my face from the first shot to the last shot and just be like,
So you had the single action shot, so you're probably just like, and then by the time you get to that last one, you're just like, I just want to be done.
Yeah, literally, I'm grimacing. I'm just like,
And it showed on your target.
Oh, yeah. No, my target shots were not where I wanted them to be on that
was
one.
A really loose grouping for
Yeah,
you. Like,
I was not pleased.
Granted, they're all on the guy.
Yeah.
But they are like, I mean...
I was not happy with that.
And then you had that one, like, Super Troopers bad where it's like, that little guy, you know? Like,
I didn't like him.
No.
He was done. I was done with him. Done with this one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, high marks, you would rank that higher than this?
I mean, it definitely was a good stopper, like, in terms of, like, it was definitely going to put the target down, at least that's how I felt after shooting it. But...
How important is it to reload that you're going to have a, like, triple the size grouping with a little cartridge versus 10.4 and nice tight grouping, but then a complete nightmare to reload?
Yeah, I still feel like this would probably be slightly better.
No, there's no way. I'm going with this.
Okay, you can go with that.
Because at the end of the day, I got to get at least the one guy.
I might be able to hide and get the one guy.
With that?
Yeah.
No, I'm shooting this all day. That's worse.
I mean, this is worse. I don't argue with you.
Give me the Avidy on this. And then,
yeah, I mean, obviously, if I could have the Avidy on that, that'd be way better.
Right. But, like, I'm just saying, like, I'll take my 6 good hits for sure.
I'll take my shitty 5 hits or 6 hits, yeah.
You think you're going to get them?
I mean, I did.
You were calm, and you were you were stretching to the limits of silhouette.
I was calm and pissed.
Yeah, but you were calm on range. It wasn't like, boom, 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 boom.
But yeah, we don't have the paper target rushing at me.
Well, yeah, I don't know how we would actually don't even, we could do like Carl and throw kettlebells everywhere.
Oh, we could, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm taking this. That's all I'm saying. This is better.
Okay.
This, I like this.
I don't disagree with you.
Technologically superior, fine. This is me.
I'll take the tech superior one, even though I hate it.
You're going to die.
I might.
I'm winning because I'm going to draw fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can draw fast and then load really slow.
You want that when the other guy has this one?
Look, all I'm saying is that I think I could probably do better with this one in terms of just being able to reload at least.
Yeah, but you're not going to survive to reload with that thing.
I might not need to because I already got him because he went down. Yours, he might not go down.
7.5.
I mean, maybe.
You have to hit him twice for one of these, and you can't even hit him twice with that thing, and the time it takes to hit him 3 times with this. Mm-hmm. This is better.
Okay.
You're a complete insane person, and I'm the winner. And everybody agrees with me because I'm the best.
All right, put it down in the comment if you agree with him.
Also, I'm curious if anybody has any of these Swiss 82s. Is yours sprung to heck and back, or did we just get like a weird lemon?
Tell anyone that has one, give us a holler on
Yeah, because maybe this is like a weird thing that we've seen before.
I mean, we thought about that with the Brixia back in the day.
We haven't done the Brixia episode because of that. I had to wait and get another mainspring. They don't know what we're talking about. But that gun was
But yeah, no, we've been playing with that for a while to be like, what's going on with the Brixia?
We have occasionally encountered guns that are stiffer than they should be.
Yeah.
So I don't have another...
like there was a Rex revolver, a 79 that we got to play with that one time.
The first Rex revolver that we shot was stiffer.
No, that was lighter.
No, it was stiffer, I thought.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, we've seen it with Rex revolvers.
Yeah.
So, if you have a lighter 82, please let us know in the comment.
Please.
Because I'd be very curious to find out.
Yep.
And don't thumb the hammer and think it's lighter, because that's what we did. And
we
we
were dumb.
So you would take that into battle in a World War I scenario, because that lasted all the way until the 1950s.
I think there's better options than that.
Oh.
In World War
All I need is the Avidy, and it'll be perfectly good.
Oh, well, yeah. Let me just make the trigger and hammer worse. Let me just do that.
I would not.
No.
I would do this one.
You said
I'm not
gentle
happy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not happy. I'm just telling you, man, like the first couple shots are really important, and I just don't have it with that, and I do have it with this.
Okay.
And this is shinier.
Okay. It is shinier. Well, until you shoot, and then it's not shiny.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It loses its shine after like one shot.
That was black powder to begin with too.
Oh, fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, as a collector, how do you feel about the 82?
I find it very unique. I find it an excellent example to compare with our 78 here. I think the two of them together...
This is like your female best friend telling you why you deserve love.
Wow, what happened to you?
I'm just telling you, like, it's unique and, like, these are not good leading questions.
The problem is that I, as a collector, tend to like to shoot my pieces. I do not care about shooting this one, but... It's just weird enough as a shooter that I think I would enjoy putting up new people with it.
Oh, she's not gonna date you, bro. She's not. She wants to push you. Like, she wants to push you onto her friends, but she's not gonna date you.
Like Bruno with his little Kevin pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His little.
It's
we're not explaining that whole thing, but yeah. Sometimes you have a gun that you love to hate, but I don't even think I love to hate this gun. I think it's just like
I mean, you can just hate it.
Like,
I'll allow it.
Here, how would you describe this?
It's beautiful and majestic. And
see?
A horse
this
of
one
its kind.
she'd date.
Yes,
this is what you want women to say about you.
Yeah.
Not that. Not, oh, it's unique and you can appreciate the certain qualities if you look at it in the right light. But
I apologize. It is all again 3 a.m. now.
This has been dating advice from Othais.
Yeah.
Find a girl that looks at you the way that I look at this thing.
It's true.
And avoid anybody that talks about you the way Mae talks about that thing.
Actually, yeah, all of that is accurate.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Night, everybody.
Longtime fans of the show know that we average about one Q&A a year. Well, we are overdue, so the next episode slot will be replaced with one. These are marathon sessions, the last one being 6 hours. So we limit them to patrons only. Come ask us on Utreon, Patreon, or Subscribestar. Reply to the post we put up on Saturday, and have it there no later than Friday 4/22. Because of the volume, remember to ask one reasonable question. No, we won't give out our credit card numbers, and yes, some questions could require too much research to handle as part of 100 others. We will do our best to answer all we can, though. Thanks.